Hello, Canucks fans. Welcome back to an episode of Canucks Conversation brought to you by Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studios. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. My name is Dave Verdrelli. I'm joined by Harman Dial, and right off the bat, we have got a super chat. Let's get to it. It is from Noah VCR on YouTube, who says in all capital letters, it's a $5 super chat, said Joe LeBate fight night. Let's go. Appreciate the super chat. If you want to make sure your question or comment gets on the show, hit us with a super chat. Proceeds from our super chat go to the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. The chat is talking about a few different things. We've got someone in the chat saying, Quads, my shower has a leak. What should I do? I could help, but I'm going to need some more info from that. So Jacob, get on it. Book the guest that needs help with their shower. We'll do some DIY home improvement.
My cousin is a plumber. I can bring him on to talk about it.
Pretty sure he asked me. So
All
just
right.
get the guy. We need to hear about this shower. Okay, let's get right to it. There's some stuff going on right now. The Vancouver Canucks are going to be playing the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. Jeff Paterson of Rink Wide Vancouver is going to join us in just a few moments' time. But right off the bat, we have to talk about it, Harm. The Seattle Mariners eliminated. Heartbreaking. I'm not one to come out and be like, oh, this guy should be fired. Man, I really like Dan Wilson up until last night. Jacob complained so much about John Schneider all year, and I get it. Like, I agree. Like, I agree with everything you say, Jacob, about John Schneider. I texted you this. That was a John Schneider-like bullpen decision from Dan Wilson to pull in Bizardo. And honestly, like at first I was like, oh, I don't know if you pull in Munoz, but when it was two runners on, you got to put Munoz in at that point. And usually he doesn't do well in non-save situations, but like that's your season on the line. I'm pretty sure that would have been enough for Munoz to get himself ready and say, yeah, this is basically a save situation. I think he would have done just fine. So that was really
Quads, I was going to say, I was thinking about it this morning. Should they maybe just have left Wu in? He still looked fine. He gave up it was weak contact.
Yeah,
obviously the guys got bunted over. Like Wu and Munoz are your two best guys. One of them should have been pitching to Springer.
If you didn't have the context of of Wu struggling in his first outing, because remember he's coming off a pectoral injury and he hadn't pitched for the latter half of the season. If he wasn't coming off that injury and hadn't struggled in his first outing, they would have left Wu in, and you should have left Wu in. But I'll be honest, like I was watching that game, I wasn't sitting there saying leave Wu in. I was saying leave Kirby in. Taking out Kirby was like you're big braining it. You're overthinking it. Taking out Kirby, he was dealing, and then you put in Wu. You could have had Wu an inning later. So anyways, we've gone on too long about the Mariners. I just think it's beautiful that a country's coming together and standing side by side cheering with Leafs fans. So yeah, you're all Leafs fans. That's my new take is if you're cheering for the Jays, you're all Leafs fans. I'm very bitter. Big Hog Hockey with one quickly, and I want to get Jeff's thoughts on this too. The Springer homer, is it bigger than the Bautista bat flip? Jacob, your thoughts?
Yes. The Bautista bat flip was in the American League Division Series. This one is in the Championship Series. It ultimately sends them to the World Series. It is the second biggest home run in Blue Jays history. But the fact that you've got Carter's World Series walk-off, Springer's ALCS Game 7 home run, and then the Bautista bat flip's number 3, like the Bautista bat flip would be the biggest home run in most franchises' histories. So that's pretty cool as a Jays fan to have.
Big Dog Hockey said, don't you dare call us Leafs fans. I'm not calling you Leafs fans. Well, I guess I did. But all I'm saying is it's just beautiful that you're all standing arm in arm with Leafs fans, putting your differences aside. Like that old Boston Pizza commercial that everybody liked to make fun of. You're cheering right alongside Leafs fans. It's beautiful. I think it's great. Okay, let's go. Let's get to Jeff Paterson, the host of Rink Wide Vancouver. He's brought to you by our friends over at Greta, a great spot. If you're looking for a spot to watch the World Series or Canucks games, we've got a great place in Greta. Again, like I said, I've been saying this for a bit. You should know this by now. You can skip the line and not pay any cover on game nights if you're wearing the home team's gear. And of course, there's also the game day specials at Greta. $3.33 off select food items, $3.33 for select drinks, and more. With the arcade, bar, and street food menu, Greta's a great spot. Make it your spot to watch the next game. 50 West Cordova Street is the address. Let the games begin. All right, Jeff Paterson. noted baseball enthusiast. Jeff, Springer, Bautista, which one's a bigger homer?
Yeah, I mean, to punch your ticket to the World Series, come on. I don't think there's much doubt there. Although, I will say, just the tension in the building that day in that 7th inning that took like 2 hours.
Yes.
It was such a topper on that game and the way that things had built up against Texas. But this is to punch your ticket to the World Series. And, of course, Joe Carter stands alone for now. My quick Blue Jays World Series story, and if you'll let me indulge here, the first World Series, the 92 one, when they won it, the night that they won it in Atlanta was my mom's 50th birthday. And she is not a baseball fan, not a sports fan. My dad had planned and organized this big catered birthday party in our house. All of their friends, like the guys were dressed up, the women were in like nice outfits. It was a big deal. And like every guy in the house was gathered around a television set. And there was my mom, the it was supposed to be her moment. And like nobody paying attention to mom on her 50th because everybody was watching the Blue Jays win their first World Series. And I think she still holds that against us and against men in general, that we all ignored her for her big night.
Love it.
J-Pat, before we get into the obvious storylines around the center situation, all the injuries, wanted to put a bow and get your perspective on the first 3 games of this road trip, rattling off 3 consecutive victories. What were some of your biggest takeaways from those 3 wins?
Yeah, I think the biggest harm is spread scoring, right? I mean, I think 10 different guys have scored on the road trip, and Max Sasson is the only one to score twice, if I'm not mistaken. And so we wondered about offense for this hockey club, and we're still going to wonder about that offense. The question has changed a little given the events of the weekend, but for them to rise up and find that many different guys contributing, I think is huge. And really just the way that they've sort of stabilized after the 1-2 start to the season. And there was angst in the market. And here they are now at 4-2 and feeling good about themselves and maybe possibly thinking about sweeping this road trip, although that's getting ahead of themselves. They can only focus on the Pittsburgh Penguins. But now, obviously, it's all available hands on deck. And what kind of lineup are they? I mean, we know who's going to line up, but what does it look like on the ice? So, yeah, I mean, I give them credit. Didn't love the starts in Dallas or Chicago. Liked the start a lot in Washington, but I would say the themes for me are spread scoring and really solid, if not exceptional, goaltending, and showing you how far that can take a hockey club over a short sample.
Jeff, we'll get to the obvious storylines now. Filipino, the hit from Tom Wilson. A, what was your reaction to the hit? And B, where do the Canucks go from here? Where does Filip Chytil go from here? Like, what are the thoughts you have on this one?
For me, the hit itself, I break it down into 2 components. One is it was a bit late. Should there have been a penalty? Probably. But as we look at Filip Chytil and project, his well-being now and moving forward, a minor penalty isn't going to make any difference to Filip Chytil. Yep. A minor penalty isn't going to deter Tom Wilson the next time he's in that situation. So, sure, there probably should have been a minor penalty for interference. He was no longer the puck carrier. It comes down to, we all knew, every single one of us, you 2 guys, Jacob, anybody that watches the Vancouver Canucks knew that this day was coming. And you just hope that Filip Chytil was going to be able to absorb some contact and pick himself up and carry on. And obviously that wasn't the case. And he got hit by one of the hardest, toughest customers in the National Hockey League. It wasn't a headshot. I didn't have an issue the way that Wilson delivered the contact, other than it being a beat late. But really, this was about the Vancouver Canucks electing to go forward with Filip Chytil, who was living on a razor's edge as far as continuing his career with his history. And early in Game 6 of this season, now he's out, and nobody knows. And I think it's probably still too soon for the Canucks themselves to really have a diagnosis here. I'm bracing for a fairly lengthy absence, just because that's been the case here in the past, and he looked like he was in rough shape when they needed to help him off the ice. So it's really unfortunate. I feel for Filip Chytil. I do think that he and his family and his agent and his camp are going to have to sit down and have a long, hard, really difficult discussion about whether this is a profession for him any longer. And he's got a lot of life left to live, and I don't want to see him make the wrong decision and come back and have this happen again. And yet, I mean, there are massive implications, obviously, for the Vancouver Canucks. So it's a multi-pronged, many legs and arms to this story. But the bottom line is a guy's health and future career, I think, very much in jeopardy right now, and a hockey club that has to push on, already thin down the middle, and now just bare bones scraping by to try to make a go of it at the NHL level.
It's interesting, too, because it's obviously not just Chytil. No Brock Besser for personal reasons, no Teddy Bluger, no Nils Höglander, no Jonathan Lecker-Mackey. Where it's so funny, we spent all this time in training camp breaking down line combinations and who's going to play with who, and yet we're game 7 of the regular season, and this looks like a preseason lineup where after the top line, you could argue that the Abbey line is their second line, perhaps. For Adam Foote, how big of a test is this? How do you want to see him approach this challenge? And ultimately, what do you think we can learn about him as he faces this adversity?
Yeah, well, I think I was a little surprised, honestly. I thought he might come back with Thatcher Demko and think that Vezina caliber goaltending behind this lineup might be able to produce a result. Now, Kevin Lankinen looked really good in Chicago the other night. And I think as I look at the week ahead in this condensed schedule, and this is the midst of 7 and 10 or 11 nights, I kind of think they're probably back in loading the goaltending here, that if they want Demko for Edmonton on Sunday, go Lankinen tonight and Lankinen on Saturday against Montreal, and then Demko on Thursday, and that'll keep Demko ready for the Oilers. That in theory could be the toughest test, although Montreal may have something to say about that, the way that they're playing. And of course, the Penguins are off to a nice start here with 4 wins in their first 6. So he fought that temptation, and I think that's good. If this was the plan all along to alternate, and this was a Lankinen game, they stuck with that. And I think that says something about no knee-jerk reaction where we've seen previous coaches ride Thatcher Demko when he gets in one of those grooves. This is where I guess you turn to whatever leaders are left and available to you. But I think, look, Quinn Hughes has been okay, but we know Quinn can be a whole lot better. Like, wouldn't this be a great time for Quinn to sort of announce his arrival into this season, even though he's managed to pick up some points, but the underlying numbers have been average at best. I think Canucks have outscored opponents 6-5 at 5-on-5 through the first 6 games with the captain out there. And his expected goals are below 50%. I mean, this is a guy last year, the expected goals were close to 2/3 in favor of the Vancouver Canucks when he was out there. So he can be better, and hopefully he will be. Jake DeBrusk has 1 goal. He's got a ton of shots and scoring chances, but this is when you need Jake DeBrusk, and you need Elias Pettersson to follow up a pretty solid performance in Washington with another, that the Washington game can't stand alone a week from now, and all of us looking and he did it that night, but haven't really seen that. So it's tough to ask a whole lot of Nils Åman and Joe LeBate playing his first game as a Canuck in 8.5 years. And those guys, like, they'll give you what they can. But if this team is going to remain competitive, I think you look right at the top of the lineup, and that's Pettersson, it's Garland, it's DeBrusk, it's Quinn Hughes, and ultimately whoever's in goal. And so that seems to me like the formula for the Vancouver Canucks. Is that going to be enough to keep Malkin and Crosby at bay? They're both off to nice starts for the Penguins. I guess we'll find out here in a matter of hours.
Jeff, back to Chytil for a second. In conversation with Sportsnet's Ian McIntyre, Patrick Allvin dropped what I thought to be a pretty interesting quote. I quickly wrote it up at Canucks Army today. This was the quote: "The first job is to find a way to get through the next game. Depth-wise, I think we're good at the bottom of the lineup. It's more how you get the skill guy for the top 6 that is the challenge. I think there's always been an urgency to add that player, and that's been something we looked into all summer. I would say," this is the kicker, "I would say this, Chytil's injury, probably makes me look at other things I might not have looked at before, just take a different view. My job is to look at the options, short-term and long-term, and what makes sense for us." Now, when I hear that quote, the thing that I thought about when he says take a different view and do things that he wasn't willing to do before, are we talking about moving prospects? Because to me, that's what that screams, is just, okay, well, we had this deal on the table and we didn't want to do it because we didn't want to part with Tom Willander or Jonathan Lecker-Mackey or whoever it is, right? Is that how you read into that quote as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that they didn't want to pay market prices through the summer, and the prices aren't coming down. Everybody in the league knows how desperate they are. And right now, I mean, there's not trades being made in the National Hockey League a week and a half in, and that's part of the problem too. Other teams aren't prepared to throw in the towel. They're not looking to make changes, I don't think. So it becomes difficult to find a trading partner unless you just flat out open the vault here and overpay. And so whether that's moving a first rounder that they weren't prepared to, whether it's touching Tom Willander or Lekkerimäki's injured, so that makes that a little more complicated. They're over a barrel, without a doubt. They're over a barrel. And they weren't prepared to make these moves in the summer. And we heard Jim Rutherford with the quote about it being expensive if they did and more expensive if they didn't. And here we are. Do we know, does Roslovic have like a money back offer in Edmonton? Like, the Oilers aren't going very well right now. Maybe he's not happy there. Maybe he wants to reconsider. But that's not looking great on the Vancouver Canucks. Like, they didn't want to go that route. And it turns out to be $1.5 million for a player that would look pretty handy right about now. And could have plugged into this lineup. And so, a lot of this is on management, right? I mean, they rolled the dice and come up craps here in the early going. Now, that's not to say that the guys that they've got can't grind out results. And with 3 wins to start the road trip, like, I don't think anybody can be outraged if they don't get a win in Pittsburgh tonight, but I'm not writing them off. I mean, you play the games, and the Canucks do have difference makers, but over the long haul here. And, again, this is the start of 4 games in 6 nights. Like, this is a really difficult stretch for them. And then you keep your fingers crossed that nobody else gets injured, right? Besser should be back maybe as early as Thursday, but it's contact sport and they just can't afford any more injuries, but that's not a guarantee either. So you kind of hold your breath on that front and hope that everybody just gets through these games and is available for the next one. But yeah, I mean, when Patrick Allvin says in the quote there about looking at things that he hasn't looked at, I mean, his job is to look at everything, isn't it, as a general manager? So I don't know if he's got like a surprise behind door number 3 there that he hadn't anticipated or hadn't thought of beforehand. I'm not sure kind of where he's going there, but it just feels to me like right now they would have to pay a king's ransom to get even a serviceable, and that's the scary part. Like, are you paying a king's ransom just to get a serviceable player? Like, if they're going to go all in on a trade, like, I want a guy that's going to be here now and going to be here for the next bunch of years and is going to be a productive player, not just a guy that's holding down a spot here to try and get you through a difficult stretch because of injuries.
Pat, I'm curious to kind of get your perspective on this kind of half-baked take I have. I think back to, I think this is my 7th season covering the team, and throughout there have been, I think, several situations like this where the lineup, because of injuries, looks really thin and you have guys playing way higher up the lineup than they probably should be. And one thing that I think I've noticed, even going back to the 2019-20 season, when a guy like Oscar Vandenberg, because of injuries at times, was moonlighting in the top 4 for a little bit, I think it can be surprising to see how those depth guys, for maybe a couple games, a week, maybe even a week and a half look. And for a while, it can sort of seem like, all right, it's not as disastrous as it seems, but it's really more the long term when it becomes, all right, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where depth players kind of get exposed. And so I'm looking at the Canucks' upcoming schedule, and even though Pittsburgh's off to a good start, we know on paper they're not a very good team. Same thing with the Nashville Predators. I wouldn't be shocked if there's a scenario where they can actually weather the storm for these last 2 games on the road. It's more the back-to-back when they're home and they have to play Montreal and then Edmonton, where I start to worry. But by that point, maybe you get a Brock Besser back, maybe you get a Teddy Bluger back. What's your overall take on just depth players being able to step up into really high leverage roles and perhaps being able to make it work in the really, really, really short term?
Yeah, look, there's a couple things. One is these guys are professionals, and I think they love it when they're doubted. They went into Dallas the other night, and they were down 2-0, and I think we all thought, all right, this is, chalk it up, another loss, 1-3 to start the season. This is no good. And then a guy like Max Sasson getting his opportunity, like, it scores a goal, plays well, that line plays well. So I think you're right. In the short term and against this level of opponent, I mean, there's a lot of people that are picking the Penguins to be among the worst teams in the National Hockey League. They're off to a nice start, but, is that going to hold over the long haul? Probably not. So again, I think there's enough at the top of the Canucks lineup to get them through here. Nashville, not scoring many goals. So, it's not like you're probably going to have to go to Nashville and score 5. You might be able to grind out a victory with that Demko between the pipes there. But you're right. The Montreal and Edmonton games, not just back-to-back in isolation, that's 4 and 6 at the end of that stretch. That's all we like. Players can get by back-to-backs. It's when you start to play 4 and 6 that truly fatigue and some of the injury concerns mount. The Rangers will went in. Obviously, that's going to be an emotional night with JT Miller. Rangers have been totally different on the road than they have been at home. It's a week out. They may have figured things out by then. And then the Canucks are back out on the road again. So in this Olympic year, you get used to it. This is just, there's going to be a bunch of these stretches, and this is just life for these guys. And so you just never know who's going to be an unsung hero and step up. I am curious to see, though, without Brock Besser, and we saw it the other night, like Kiefer Sherwood scored a power play goal. Great for him. He's off to an incredible start. But like, what will power play 2 look like if it sees any ice? Like, it gets thin so quickly for the Vancouver Canucks that Nils Aman is probably going to find himself on the second unit power play in the National Hockey League after starting the season in the minors. But, Ratu, it'll be Evander Kane, I suppose.
Abby's power play 1 from the playoffs last year.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. So I am curious to see what the second unit looks like, but hopefully the first unit converts and you don't see a whole lot of the second unit. But these are the challenges. And this is where I think you look to some of the veteran guys that, even though they're not offensive leaders, although Tyler Myers had a goal and an assist the other day, but Myers and Marcus Pettersson and Hughes and Hronek, like, they have to be prepared to log some significant minutes and not get bogged down, that they've got to find a way to be drivers and keep the puck out of their own end and spend more time in the offensive zone and hope that you don't need a ton of offense. But, there's just so many storylines coming in this game. We haven't even touched on Arturs Silvos and what it's going to mean for him, but for Pettersson and Drew O'Connor going back, I'm sure there'll be some emotion there. And P.O. Joseph making his season debut, didn't have a great preseason and now gets thrown in to a situation where they're going to kind of need his veteran presence. So a guy that's played almost 200 games in the National Hockey League. So it just massive patchwork tonight. And this is a real test for Adam Foote and his new coaching staff to see how adaptable they can be. What kind of situations can they put guys in? Like we talked about, EP40 scored his first goal the other night, ended up playing less than Teddy Bluger over the course of the game. And Bluger didn't play the final 6 minutes, but part of that was Petey didn't kill penalties on Sunday. He had 20 seconds of shorthanded ice time. So they were sort of governing him a little bit and putting him in offensive situations, but where we'd seen him kill some penalties early in the season, they elected to go with other guys. And Sherwood and Garland both played a ton on the penalty kill. They both played a ton over the course of the hockey game. Again, you could do it in isolation, but you can't do that 4 games in 6 nights with travel. So let's see how both of those guys respond as this trip rolls along and ultimately until they get some reinforcements back.
Jeff, you wrote about it today, 6 stats that stand out through the Canucks' first 6 games. Just pick one of those. Which one stood out to you the most, if you will?
Oh, there were a couple. I mean, that's why they came up with 6. We talked a little about Quinn Hughes. He was one of the categories that I wrote about, so I won't go there. I guess Jake DeBrusk has 1 goal, and yet he's second in the National Hockey League in high danger shots on goal. So he's peppering goaltenders from the right spots. He's a 12% career shooter, and right now he's clicking at about half of that. So he's overdue. His goal on the power play the other day looked a lot like the goals that he scored last year when he got to 28 for the Canucks in and around the net. And, that's where he's got to go. So I'm looking at him. Again, in the absence of Brock Besser, I think there's a real opportunity for Jake DeBrusk to hunt some pucks on the power play here. And any goal right now would be a good goal for DeBrusk and the Vancouver Canucks. And so the fact that he's among the league leaders in where he's delivering pucks on net, now he's just got to find a way to get a few of those in the net.
Jeff, great stuff as always. Thanks for doing this. We'll chat with you soon.
All right, rink wide after the hockey game tonight. Orf's back. He had the weekend off, but we had a lot to talk about coming out of the game in Washington, and I'm sure regardless of the outcome, lots of storylines, so we'll break it all down on rink wide after the Canucks and the Penguins.
Love it. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, guys.
There he is, Jeff Paterson. As he said, check him out, Rink Wide Vancouver. Just moments after the game, they go live. You can find it, Canucks Army YouTube channel. Are they on the Rink Wide YouTube channel, Jacob? Why am I blanking on this right
Rink
now?
Wide YouTube channel, Canucks Army, Facebook.
That's why I got confused, because I watched it on Twitter. I watched it on Twitter, I'll be honest. I do. So it's on the Canucks Army Twitter. But yeah, make sure you stream it again wherever you get your podcasts as well. All right, some interesting storylines heading into tonight. Jeff brought up a couple of them. Arturs Silvos, he's becoming a fan favorite in Pittsburgh. Are you seeing all this love that Silvos is getting in Pittsburgh right now?
No, I haven't kept up with Penn's Twitter.
It's the quotes, man. It's the quotes that are getting everybody. And
honestly, the practice. Did you see the practice facility ones?
Well, yeah, that one. Yeah,
that was pretty funny.
Earlier. Yeah, that one was funny for us. But like, he's talking about how he's going to the zoo, and he's like, "Yeah, I like saw so many penguins." And I mean, we've had Arturs Silvos in this show. We've gotten to know him a bit. Like, he's a character for sure. So again, while he's played pretty well, 3 starts so far, and played pretty well for the Penguins. One of those was a shutout. He's becoming a fan favorite for his personality, which I just think, honestly, that's just great to see. I really like seeing that.
Yeah, and everyone here, other than tonight, obviously, is rooting for his success. It's nice to see him have a .908 save percentage through 3 games, stabilize his game, and there's so much opportunity in Pittsburgh because Tristan Jarry is as inconsistent as they come, and some of their younger prospect goaltenders aren't quite ready and need more development time. So this is the perfect opportunity for him to prove himself as a full-time NHL goaltender. And hey, if you're the Canucks, you know at least the playbook on Arturs Silvos. Normally, I don't like spamming point shots, but you got to send all your forwards to the front of the net. It's also interesting because this is an Abby-heavy roster against Silvos. So I wonder if sometimes when you practice a lot against goaltenders, you pick up on little tendencies with respect to what parts of the net can you hunt where they're a little bit weaker than you might suspect. Different breakaway moves if you're in that if you happen to be in that situation. I'm sure on both sides it'll be fun for both some of those Abby guys from last year and Silvos himself, obviously, to compete against one another.
Confirmed Lankinen versus Silvos tonight. You can find starting goalies, dailyfaceoff.com. The starting goalies page tells you everything you need to know about who's starting. We got another super chat here. Swerve and Irvin in the chat said, anyone else have PTSD seeing a Pacific Northwest team win games 1, 2, and 5, but lose game 3, 4, 6, and 7? Yes, absolutely. Unlike all the Leafs fans that claim they were rooting for the Canucks in 2011, that they don't understand why that would be significant at all. Anyways, I'm bitter. I'm sorry, folks. I'm bitter.
It's why I haven't made fun of you, teased you, dunked on you, because
I'm bitter.
You're facing the ultimate pain right now, and I know how much it hurts. I'm not going to pour salt on the wound.
I'm absolutely lashing out. Like, I'm lashing out. It's inappropriate. I don't mean what I'm saying. It's not an excuse. It's a bad look. I'm going to own up to all that right now.
Wow, that's the most accountability I've seen on the show.
Well, hang on a
3
second.
years.
Don't get too ahead of yourself, because I'm still going to do it. Like, I'm apologizing in advance of what I'm going to say, because I think I started the show by calling Canucks fans actually Leafs fans. So, we're going to lose a lot of listeners for that one. I know that's not a good business move, but I'm bitter, man. I'm really bitter right now. And that's the thing. Ultimately, I'm a baseball fan. I watch a lot of baseball games, but when you're rooting for the Mariners, like, that's why it hurts more, I think, and this isn't a shot at anyone who's on Twitter freaking out and being like, you should root for the Mariners and blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, I watched like Casey Legumina throw high leverage innings and like Donovan Solano bat cleanup this season. And they made those additions and made the team way better. And it just, I don't know, man. It hurts because I watched like every Mariners game this year, and for it to just come to a close like that was tough. That was really tough, especially having a lead and it being them that kind of shot themselves in the foot. That was what hurt the most, I think. But anyways, I'm gonna stop talking baseball because it's starting to hurt me too. I'm not even gonna say go Dodgers. Yeah, last night I was bitter to the point that like my good buddy, like my best friend who's over watching the game, he's a Jays fan, and I was like so mad, and I was like, go Dodgers. I'm rooting for the Dodgers.
Yeah, it's pretty salty.
I was really salty. I don't think I'm rooting for the Dodgers. But you know what, though? Here's my actual moral dilemma. Do you want to see Leafs fans be happy? Like, I'm not even doing a bit. Like, that's an actual thing that I'm thinking about. Like, do you want to see Leafs fans happy?
I don't really care. I
don't think I do.
I mean, just think back to when the Raptors won in 2019, right? Like, I don't like, a lot of Raptors fans are also Leafs fans, but it wasn't Leafs fans being happy when the Raptors won. Because part of it was because the Leafs had already been out of the playoffs for 2 months at that point, but
Mike with a good comment. Quads is a closet Leotis Tavares fan. Funny enough, I was really high on Leotis Tavares. Jacob was in a fantasy league with me where I drafted him in like the 5th round. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk hockey. Let's get to anyone else, which is a presentation of Pacific Toyota dealers and the Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid, a no-compromise approach to electric vehicles that offers the best of both worlds. Drive up to 72 kilometers on the battery alone. Seamlessly transition from electric mode to the gas engine for a combined range of 962 kilometers. There's no sacrifices when it comes to horsepower or style with its sleek, low, and wide exterior and sophisticated interior. It's loaded with tech. It's actually easy to use. Plug in to recharge at home or at one of the over 2,000 public charging stations in BC alone. And now you can lease a 2025 Prius plug-in hybrid SE from $99 weekly at 3.49% APR for 64 months with $3,600 down. And it includes a $3,000 discount. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Depleted lineup for the Canucks tonight. We know that. It's going to be a really big test, I think, for this Abbey line that's gotten a ton of love. There's no hiding. Like, there's no soft matchup for them tonight. Yes, you're playing the Penguins, but like that second Penguins line, we talked about them right at the start of the year, Harm. That Malkin line is just so dominant, and the Penguins have had a good start to the season. Like, that's the other thing people need to realize. This Penguins team isn't going to go away quietly. They still have Sidney Crosby for now. You're looking for a cent. Anyways, I'm not going to go down that road. But this is a really good Penguins team. Well, okay, not really good, but it's a good forward group for the Penguins.
Well, the key difference is Evgeny Malkin almost every October comes out of the gate absolutely firing on a roll, right? Because he's rested from the offseason, and then it's about 6 weeks into the season where he maybe picks up a knock, or because of his age just becomes tired and his production falls off a cliff. But first 2-3 weeks, Malkin is always a deadly player. He's up to 9 points in 6 games. And you're right, that's going to be the big challenge, because I imagine Pettersson and his line will see a lot of Sidney Crosby, and you're thinking, all right, you could see those two lines playing each other to a draw potentially, but then it's further down the lineup of how are you going to contain Malkin if he's out there against some of Vancouver's weaker forward lines. And it's an interesting makeup too, because even stylistically, that Pittsburgh second line, Malkin and Brazeau, you've got a couple of massive bodies. Even Anthony Mantha is a huge dude. Mantha doesn't, he plays a little bit soft sometimes, but Mantha, Malkin, Brazeau are 3 monster truck human beings.
Yeah.
They're going to be hard to push off the puck. Your net front coverage is going to be really, really important against those guys. And then you contrast that with Pittsburgh's third line, which has Ben Kindle, the 18-year-old that Pittsburgh drafted in the first round this past year, who, by the way, is so sick. I've seen him in the early going. That dude, I was watching a Penguins Ducks game, I think a week ago. He did a spinorama in the defensive zone on his own exit, like right in front of the net. He just has ice in his veins. He's driving offense. He's such a smart player, so shifty. Not the biggest guy, but him. And then you have Tommy Novak on that line, who's just a straight line burner. That's your speed line to contrast the size that Pittsburgh's forwards have. So you also have to be mindful because you're not going to fully dictate matchups. It's not like if you're, let's say, the Abbey line, or if you're the Ratu Sherwood line, that you're going to see one line all the time. You're going to see likely a mixture of both Pittsburgh's second and third lines. And in my opinion, you need to be really mindful of the specific player tendencies, because the way you want to defend the Malkin line looks a lot different than the way you're going to want to defend that Kindle Novak line, which is going to be a lot more speed and rush offense based.
Anything else on tonight's game that you wanted to get to? I wanted to dive more into this quote from Allvin, but anything specifically on the game? Canucks Penguins tonight, 4:00.
I think PK, you're hoping, can stabilize again. That's one of the quiet areas where started really strong. I think it was clicking over 90% through the first 3 games or so, but lately they've been leaking some goals against, and still no Teddy Bluger, because of the injury he suffered against Capitals. So they've done a lot of mixing and matching. The only real constant among the forwards on the PK has been that Garland and Sherwood have been playing a lot. Curious to see how much foot uses Ratu in the PK for his draws versus how much uses Elias Pettersson, considering Pettersson's still going to have to do a ton at 5-on-5. Yep. That's an area that I'm going to be keeping an eye on.
Okay, last one from me when it comes to this game, Harm. I think this is a really big night for Kevin Lankinen. Wasn't great in that St. Louis game. Also wasn't the problem, but did let in 5 goals at the end of the day. And that's, 4. One of them was an empty netter. But Kevin Lankinen, it's important for me to see him have a strong game, because this is a depleted lineup, as we know. They're going to need him to be at his best. And so far, they've gotten Thatcher Demko at their best. It was a storyline coming into this year was, okay, well, if one of these guys, and really, let's be honest, we're talking about Demko. If Demko is significantly better than Lankinen, the Canucks are at some point naturally going to get tempted to just run Demko a little bit extra than maybe they would have, because they're hunting wins. They want to win games, and I get it. But this is one where it's a big game for Kevin Lankinen, because I thought he played well against Chicago, but you got to keep that going. You got to keep that going, and you don't have to be as great as Thatcher Demko, because Demko's been one of the best goalies in the league to open the year. No one's expecting that from Lankinen. But let's also not forget that Lankinen was playing like a top 5 goalie in the league at this time last year. Like, the Canucks had a decent start because of Kevin Lankinen and how good he was playing, and he was so good to start last season. Hopefully Chicago was a building block for him, but I'm really going to be watching Kevin Lankinen tonight and hoping that he puts in a really, really strong effort.
I agree with your overall sentiment, but I'll be honest, I didn't have a problem with the start against the Blues at all. I thought he was completely left out to dry. But he was left out to dry in Chicago,
and he was left out to dry last year too, and he made the saves. And he made the saves in Chicago.
The bar is different for Lankinen than it is Demko. You're thinking, all right, he's going to make
Lankinen. I'm talking about Lankinen. That's what
I'm saying. So Lankinen, the bar is lower for him than it is for Demko, obviously.
Yeah.
In the sense that I'm expecting him to make less superhero-like saves. In my opinion, if you defend the way you did against St. Louis for Kevin Lankinen, I expect Kevin Lankinen to allow 4 goals or 5 goals or whatever.
Sure.
And overall, and it was only 4 goals against.
4. It was.
And then he was really good against Chicago. Through 2 games, he has a .912 save percentage.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. He's got to keep it up.
Overall.
Yeah, he's got to keep it up. He's got to keep it up. Because look, if you thought that St. Louis effort was bad, wait till you see what this lineup's able to do, because I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be pretty in front of Kevin Lankinen tonight. Calcio Rico in the chat said whoever's in net is probably going to get shelled with this lineup most nights. But that's what I'm saying, right? Is like, make the superhero save. Lankinen's done it before for this team. I don't think he stole them the game in Chicago, but he was really good. Spencer Knight was really good as well. Spencer Knight's been really good. You need to kind of go toe-to-toe sometimes. So we'll see. We'll see how Lankinen plays tonight. I've been keeping an eye on it because, like I said, a bad scenario for this team is that Demko is miles better than Lankinen. And it's just like, okay, we're starting Lankinen because we have to, not because we want to. Because that's a really hard line to try to walk. Okay. Yeah. Let's get to anyone else. Before anyone else, I want to read this comment from Callum McKenzie. He said, Lankinen set an NHL road record last year, and him playing for us on the cheap denied Edmonton the opportunity to play a close to elite goalie. Did they win the Stanley Cup if they have Kevin Lankinen? Maybe.
I still think they lose.
Oh yeah?
Skinner was bad, but Edmonton can manufacture any offense in the middle of that series.
Yeah.
Their zone exits were horrible. They couldn't get out of their own end. They were so painfully mid offensively in that series too. They had Kasperi Kapanen in the top 6. No Zach Hyman. Yeah, a better goaltender would have maybe extended the series last year. But I think the Panthers were just so much deeper up front, and were genuinely outplaying them by a significant margin.
I'm so rattled with the Mariners. I forgot that we already started anyone else. I was literally about to do the Toyota ad read again. Jacob just reminded me that we're already in anyone else. Toyota would have got 2 ad reads today because I fully forgot that I already did it. Calvin in the chat said, I always thought Harm was taller than Quads, but they're pretty much the same height. Quads looks a bit taller from that picture I seen. Do you know what picture he's talking about, Jacob? Because Harmon is taller than me.
We're not that close.
I'm assuming on the thumbnail.
Thumbnail? Where?
On
I know where. How do I
episode thumbnail?
Yeah. No, I know. I gotta find it. How do I?
I think it's just the perspective from the photo.
We did camera tricks.
Yeah, which makes
Quads
sense.
did them.
Which
My
makes
call.
sense.
I edited the photo. I was in Photoshop raising myself.
No, but like it looks better when you have two people that are closer to the same height in a photo. Like it is just camera tricks. Quads
So Jacob,
is shorter than harm.
So Jacob, not everybody who watches or listens to this show is going to be listening to this episode or this part of the episode. Can we, and this will be a joke for the how many people are watching right now? Like 400 people that are watching live right now, and everybody in the podcast know about it too. Can we do with the thumbnail? Can you like just raise me 1 pixel above Harman for the rest of the season until someone notices? I just want to see how long it takes someone
up and up
just
and
keep
up.
going up. Just keep raising me above Harman until I'm like out of the thumbnail, until the top of my head's out of the thumbnail. I just want to see how long it takes people to notice.
Well, the problem is like the people in this chat are going to notice and tell someone.
Well, they'll notice it's an inside joke. It's an inside joke with like, couple thousand of us, but there'll be some people who are just confused, and I think that's funny. I think it's worth it.
Is secret agenda to make everyone else convinced that he's actually tall.
Wait, say that again. Sorry,
your secret agenda. You're just trying to slip in your secret agenda to make everyone think you're taller than you actually are.
Oh, that's funny. All right. People think you already did that to the thumbnail that I was raised on it to put Harman and I at the same height.
No,
Harman's like what, 3 inches taller than me? You're like 6 feet, right?
Not exactly. Yeah, around there. Depending on if I got shoes or not.
Okay. All right. Mitchell said first time watching live, big fan. So that's one less person that we're gonna trick. Thanks, Mitchell. Appreciate it. Is there anything in the chat, Jacob, that's actually in anyone else that people want us to talk about? There's a lot of baseball conversation.
There was
talk baseball.
There was some stuff earlier.
One thing I wanted to touch on is the situation the Canucks have put themselves in, where you got Max Sasson as your 2C. How many times in the offseason did we say, oh, they're one bad hit away from Bluger or whoever being your second line center? I think the decision to let Pia Suter walk and pick up Evander Kane with that cap space instead already looks questionable. And even at the time, I was skeptical about them picking Kane over Pia Suter. I could see the upside case of if Kane recaptures some of his top form, he can be a really impactful player, and he has a higher offensive ceiling than Pia Suter without a doubt. And I'm not completely writing off of Evander Kane. It's only been 6 games. He could absolutely figure it out and be a difference maker. And I expect him to have much better stretches of hockey. But because of the positional value, and you saw from Pia Suter, he's made for situations like this where he can step into a top 6 center role for a stretch and not just hold his own, but sometimes outplay opponents doing it. And when you look at him on a modest $4 million cap hit, $1 million fewer than Evander Kane, only 2 years of term that the Blues had to give him. And the Blues have, by the way, rotated him between 2C and 3C. He's been interchangeable with Braden Shen. He's off to a good start, 2 goals and an assist in 5 games, controlling 64% of 5-on-5 scoring chances. You knew Filipino has a long history of concussions. You saw him get hurt down the stretch last year. I can give this management group benefit of doubt for, okay, you didn't land your ideal top 6 center candidate. That's okay, because there just weren't that many centers of that caliber that changed teams in the summer in general. We saw teams like the Canadiens not able to check that box. But to not have an insurance option when you had the perfect one in Pia Suter, and on that contract specifically that he signed in St. Louis, man, that's already stinging them.
Mm-hmm. Fair comment. We're going to have Bag Milk on the show on Friday. Canucks play the Oilers on Sunday. And him and I were just having an not recorded conversation just about what Evander Kane's done for the Canucks so far. And the reason it got brought up was actually the photo with Kash Patel, which someone asked about in the chat. And basically what BM was saying was just like all that off-ice stuff that you're going to get with Evander Kane. he was kind of saying like it was kind of easy for Oilers fans to look the other way because he was so good. Like the clip he scored at when he first arrived in Edmonton after all that stuff in San Jose, like it was very easy for Oilers fans to be like, yeah, okay, maybe we don't love the person, but look at what he's doing on the ice. And he's like, I don't know what it would be like to just be, have Evander Kane there and him not be producing at a high clip, because he never really did that during his time with the Oilers. So it's interesting because people are really pissed off right now. Like let's call a spade a spade. Go look at the Canucks subreddit about the photo with Cash Patel, which we're not going to get into too much, but like people aren't happy about it. So I don't think it's crazy to point that out.
And with Kane, I believe he has better hockey in him.
Agreed.
But I've also seen some people pointing out, well, hey, his underlying metrics, he's already picked up 3 assists, and his goal differential is actually, I think, +5 at 5-on-5. Maybe he hasn't been that bad. But this is where, first of all, his PDO is like 113 or 114. Like that is all PDO luck as far as why his goal differential looks good. His actual underlying numbers in terms of controlling shot attempts and whatnot, they're fine. They're well below 50%, but also most of the teams well below 50%. So I'm not going to say they're terrible. But the point being, I see some people bring up his underlying numbers, and I'm just like, I'm a big stats guy, but in this case, you just got to watch the games. You got to watch the games, and I'm sure Evander himself knows that he has a lot better to give. I mean, we've seen his puck touches. Some of his decisions have been really baffling. The drop pass in the Washington game could have cost them a goal. We saw what happened with Power Play 1 early in the year, where he was single-handedly sort of being an anchor for that group. Again, I think he has a lot more that he can give, and he's a volatile player where he could have a stretch for 10 to 20 games where he looks really off, and then the next 10 to 20 games he could look like a world beater. I'm expecting there to be highs and lows in the Evander Kane story this season, but I would not point to his underlying numbers and say, oh, maybe he hasn't been as bad as people have been discussing. He has genuinely struggled.
Okay, last thing I wanted to bring up. I want to bring up this quote from Patrick Allvin again. Again, like I said earlier, courtesy of Ian McIntyre over at Sportsnet. It's an interesting one. It's one I want to make sure that we bring up because I thought it was really interesting. And again, it's the comment of we're going to take a different view of how this search for a center goes. And because Heedle's hurt is basically what he said, is it's going to be different than our search of it in the offseason. So what do you think that means? Because for me, when I read that quote, it was, yeah, okay, we're more open to trading prospects now than maybe we were.
Perhaps. I looked at it and went, maybe your bar for the center you're going to target is even lower now. And you're willing to roll the dice on reclamation project types of players, because even if you are willing to move prospects, who wants to give you an impact center less than like 2 full weeks into the season when sellers haven't even really emerged, and especially when it's a futures oriented package? It'd be one thing if you're saying, all right, we got impact ready to go NHL talent that we're willing to part ways with, but I just don't see those options out there at this stage. We know how desperate the Montreal Canadiens have been for 2C, and I know Oliver Kapanen is off to a great start, but if the right solutions were available, I think other teams would have already pulled the trigger, especially teams that have more assets than the Vancouver Canucks to offer. I think the bar lowering is kind of how I perhaps interpret it, because without Filip Chytil, you also don't have, like, this roster didn't even have a legit 3C, right? If you have Chytil at 2C, Blueger, in my opinion, is best served as a 4C at this stage in his career. If you had a legit 3C who could step up into the 2C role, like if Suter was still here, then there wouldn't be that urgency of, oh, we're this thin at center. But because you don't have an insurance option right now, I wonder about something similar to what Calgary did last year, when they went out and got a Morgan Frost, where it's maybe this guy can figure out he's a reclamation project. We're gonna pay some draft capital, but ultimately not going to pay a ton for it. And let's see what happens. It's not a very exciting name, but he could be something. Or what Pittsburgh did with Tommy Novak. And Novak, I think, is the kind of name that, I have no idea whether Pittsburgh would even want to subtract from their team, considering the strong start that they've had. But Novak hasn't been terribly productive so far. And he's Filipino light, right? Like he's budget Filipino. And so that's the kind of name that you might target. But again, I don't even know if players in that range are available right now, because you look at when the Novak trade was made, you look at when the Morgan Frost trade was made, those are way deeper into the season.
That's true. Very true. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate it. But for now, we'll see how they do tonight before they go out making any trades. Hey, who knows? Maybe you don't need to go making trades for this team. Wanted to mention this as well. Sarah Nurse joining the show tomorrow. Very excited. PWHL Vancouver revealing their jerseys today. Jacob, I should have told you this. Do you have a picture of the jerseys?
I can have it in like 10 seconds.
Okay. I don't like it. I know that's a weird segue.
Really?
No, do you like the jerseys?
I wish
like
there was
Oilers colors. Okay,
it's a good color scheme though.
Here's what was thrown around in one of my group chats, and I would have liked this. Vancouver Grizzlies colors. Like, I know you don't want to use the Canucks colors, and you have to look at what the other color schemes in the PWHL are, because there's not a ton available that they could just take. But the Grizzlies, how sharp would that look on a hockey jersey? Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't love how bright the shade of blue would be on the ice. I think this color scheme looks so clean.
Oh, you do?
I think it's so clean. I really like it. Now, do you love that it's a little bit reminiscent of Oilers colors? Yes, but it's
no.
If you show the average person these jerseys on the street, I don't think they're making an Oilers association. And I think that's what matters the most. I think it's really clean.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder what people in the chat think. What do you think of these jerseys? We'll ask Sarah Nurse tomorrow. I'm joking. Very excited and very thankful that we get to have Sarah Nurse on the show. Of course, PWHL Vancouver defense. Big Hog Hockey said, "What were you, Jacob, going to say about baseball? Harmon interrupted you."
Oh, sorry.
Earlier.
I do not remember at all what I was going to say. I don't remember Harmon interrupting me. Harmon's job is to talk on this show. I turn my mic on when I want to. If Harmon has something to say, he gets priority. So
now I feel bad.
No, you don't need to feel bad. You are.
Everybody make way for Harmon before he bulldozes. Oh man. Okay, this is okay. Here we go. Calvin pointed this out. The diagonal letters. I used to really like that. I used to think that was the coolest look on a jersey. I don't know what switched for me. I don't like diagonal letters on a jersey anymore. I used to love it. I used to think it was like the coolest look, like the old Rangers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
The current Rangers, awesome. they never got rid of it. But
the Burnaby Bulldogs, I thought it was sick. Burnaby, right there. It was a sick
jersey.
Loved it. But
I mean, well, they don't have the logo yet, so yeah. I think this is the next best thing, personally.
Well, and if you look at
dumb name you two came up, the Vancouver Rain, like RAIN. You wanted that to be the name? We'll run that one by Sarah tomorrow.
If you look at the other teams, though, like basically in the league's first year, every jersey looked like this. It was diagonal city name down the front with the shoulders kind of, opposite. Like this was the look for every team year one. And then last year, all the inaugural teams got their names, their logos. They kind of changed the jersey design. So obviously these are a 1 year jersey, but expect the colors to stay. I don't think any of the teams changed their colors from year 1 to year 2. So expect to keep like the blue and the bronze look. But obviously the diagonal Vancouver is just going to be temporary for year 1.
Johnny Canuck in the chat said, Harmon, give us a full show and tell presentation on the Bauer stick behind you. You got a glove there too? What's the story behind the stick?
Oh, this is kind of like my beater stick, to be honest. I didn't even buy this one. My friend just was like, I have a nicer stick that I didn't want to use in a certain setting. He was like, hey, I got this beater stick that
nice.
You can, so I don't even know the specs on that one, to be honest. I just vibes. I was like, oh, looks about the right height. So yeah, actually not that interesting of a story, but it looks kind of cool with the blackish color scheme. So
So I've had my fair share of beater sticks as well. My high school had a ball hockey team, and in my senior year I played forward. Usually I played goalie, but in my senior year I played forward because basically like high school ball hockey, it was 8 through 12. So there wasn't like junior ball hockey or senior ball hockey. So like I played goalie starting in grade 9 or 10, and like it was tough. Like it was really, really tough. And I think I've talked about this before, but by the time I got to like grade 11 and I was in net, all of our best players had all graduated, and like my age group, there wasn't a ton. So we had like these like grade 8 like rep hockey players that were coming up, but they were so small and they were getting bullied out there. So I kid you not, I went to forward to be an enforcer for our team. I'm not joking. Like our guys were getting roughed up so much that I was like, okay, I can't play goalie anymore. I have to get out there and defend the boys. So I literally went out there. I kid you not, I had 2 kids on my line. Like both of them were grade 8 and we were like the second line. Like our first line was like, we had a couple kids who were in like grade 9 or 10 that were like rep hockey players, and they were good enough that it was like, okay, they can handle their own. They were big too. They were big boys. So they were the first line, and then I was the second line with like 2 small grade 8s on my line. And also, I'm not the biggest guy, but I was like not going to take anything, right? So like I was out there blocking shots, and I was out there like making sure no one was getting roughed up after the whistle. And it was a fun, that was the most fun I've ever had playing hockey, I must say. It was just me being a veteran presence on the team, and just playing forward. I was playing center because like, yeah, I was decent on draws too. Those were the glory days. That was the most fun I've ever had playing hockey, I think, was just that senior year. Our team was so bad, but I was like, no one's getting bullied when I'm out there. So not letting that happen. So
who's the NHL comp?
NHL comp, you know what? Give me Brian Boyle.
Brian Boyle's 6'6". What the hell?
The roll. Okay, well, Brian Boyle's line mates were what? 6 feet tall? I had at least 6 inches on the guys I was playing
with. You're like 5'5", Brian Boyle.
No, I'm not 5'5".
Back then.
I was in grade 12. What?
This is grade 12. Oh, yeah.
University?
Oh. I forgot you were in grade 12 at that point.
Watch it, man. I was 5'8".
My bad.
All this story does is tell me we really need to get like an actual, either on ice or ball hockey or something. We need some content of you guys playing hockey against each other. The fans have been asking for it for years.
Yeah.
It's got to happen.
That's funny. I like it. Yeah, the Beer Baron in the chat said, I had the same situation at my high school. I saw a 12th grader almost punch out a craphead 8th grader. Yeah, man. You got it. Dude, you got Calvin in the chat said that would be funny if that was quads. No, I was never the one instigating. Like, I was just there to patrol, you know? Like, because that's the thing. You know, obviously I wasn't the biggest guy, but like I wasn't going to run away or shy from anything, physical contact, all that sort of stuff. So I was, you know, I was just in there. That's all that mattered. Was I was clearly like the older player in the league. Like I was one of the older players, and you know, anyways.
You're like center Kiefer Sherwood.
Yes, that's a good way to think of it. Karen
Sherwood isn't the biggest guy, so that's a bit of a better comp, I think.
I like that. Karen Conversation said, I will pay for the ice for a Canucks Convo pickup game. Jacob, get in touch with Karen Conversation. If we can book an ice time, let's absolutely do that. That'd be great. I think that'd be so fun.
I would feel very bad having a listener pay for the ice.
Why?
Yeah, of course not. You can't do that.
What? Yeah, you can't do that.
No, you can't do that.
But we could get a sponsor to pay for the ice. That's something we can think about.
No, Jacob, you're misunderstanding. The sponsors could pay us separately, and then the listener pays for the ice. I don't think you're understanding. We'll talk about it off air. But yeah, all right.
You were joking there.
Yeah, you probably should. But we could get a pretty good roster going. You know, us three. We'll get J-Pad out there. Tyson.
J-Pad can fly.
J-Pad's going to be good.
Best skater in the Vancouver media, Rob Williams, Daily Hive. It's true.
Yeah, we could get a pretty good little pickup game going, I think.
I'm gonna rank the top 5 hockey players in the Vancouver media. I think Rob Williams probably number 1. Number 2, I'm gonna put PJ, Patrick Johnson. Number 3, J-Pat. Number 4, Daniel Wagner. And then I don't know, that 5th spot's really up for grabs, Harm. One of us could go take it. And yeah, Dylan McDonald just said J-Pat's good at hockey. Yeah, J-Pat played hockey like all of his childhood. watching J-Pat skate. Like, J-Pat's a really good skater. He's got some decent hands. I'm not joking either. I don't know why this always surprised people. And no, it's not Faber. Someone in the chat asked if it's Faber. Nope.
Conversation saying Cam Robinson. That's probably.
Oh, Cam Robinson. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he plays men's league. Yep. Anyways, all right. Bet365 bet of the day. Oh, Jason Bruff. I don't know. I've never seen Bruff skate. I don't know. I'm just ranking the ones I know that I've seen skate. Let's go to our Bet365 bet of the day. The Seattle Kraken lost yesterday, so our first Kraken bet did not hit. But they're back in action tonight, taking on the Washington Capitals. Plus 225. Holy cow, 225 on the money line. You can get Kraken money line. We're taking it. Seattle Kraken to beat the Washington Capitals.
I wonder if there's going to be a quads curse. Where
once all Seattle sports organizations.
Well, hey, don't you dare! My Seahawks won, tied for first place.
Well, that and I mean, first you had the Wagon Ducks that didn't take off 2 years ago, and then you had the Flames, who I mean, you didn't curse them; they were close to making the playoffs, but they still didn't make it.
Yeah.
And then now Seattle, as soon as you're on the bandwagon, they miss or they lose their game that you bet on. So
also Swerve and Irvin and Big Hawk Hockey making some good points when I was ranking Vancouver media. I forgot about our new Vancouver media members, Landon Ferraro and Tyson Berry. So aside from the guys that have logged NHL games, okay, that's my ranking. Aside from the guys who have logged NHL games. Yeah. All right. 225. I almost said Mariners. Kraken money line.
Can you imagine Tyson Berry in a pickup media game?
Dude played like NHL playoff games on Rogers Arena Ice 2 years ago. Man, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app and get it on the game. Use the code NATION at Bet365. Must be 19 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. Before we wrap it up, I need to point this out. It was in my anyone else notes and I forgot to mention it. I learned in the Blackfish report, the Canucks Army prospect report, Dave Hall does it weekly. Arbor Jackeye has a brother named Florian Jackeye.
Dude, have you been living under a rock?
I never knew.
You didn't see all the preseason stuff?
No.
Both brothers are in the lineup at the same time and both fighting guys. And
nope, never saw it. He scored 24 goals in the AHL last year with Laval.
He did.
Dude might actually be a player.
He 24 goals and 175 penalty minutes.
Yeah, and so the reason I know about it, you know, kind of an odd turn to take, but Chase Stillman got into a fight and kind of threw his guy to the ice. Wasn't a very clean play, and then they played Laval the next day, and the guy didn't have a helmet on, which I don't like seeing that. I don't. I mean, controversial take. I don't like seeing a guy without a helmet on get slammed to the ice. I know, but Chase Stillman had to fight the next game, and it was Florian Jackeye that dropped the gloves. With Chase Stillman made him answer the bell. You can read about it more in the Blackfish report. I don't know. I didn't know you guys would both know who Florian Jackeye is. I don't know, dude. Look at this Penguins defense core. These are all a bunch of Bobby McMahons. I've never heard of any of these guys.
Okay, let me see. I know all of these guys.
Hold on. Penguins line combos? Okay, other than Eric Carlson.
Yeah, Wotherspoon's been a serviceable seven.
Okay, I know who that is. Yeah, I know
Boston recently.
Yeah,
Ryan Shea's been surprisingly good. He's been playing 22, 23 minutes
Never
a night.
Heard of him. Never.
Brunick is their 19-year-old prospect who
you don't know that.
Dude, he was so good as a prospect last year and already looks so sick. Caleb Jones has been bouncing around across a ton of organizations.
Okay, I know Caleb Jones. And
then you have Letang. I don't know, man.
Okay.
These are...
I didn't know Shea or Brunick there.
Shea, I'll give you a pass on, even though he's been good because not a high-profile guy. But Brunick they're really excited about him in Pittsburgh. He's going to be a top 4 stud for them for a really, really long time.
You know what the problem is? Guys who played down the stretch last year. I didn't watch many Penguins games down the stretch last year. It just made me sad.
I don't blame you.
Yeah. And I haven't watched too many start this year. I've only watched one full Penguins game to start this year. This will be the second. All right.
By the way, Parker Witherspoon, defenseman from Surrey, local kid. So
I didn't know that. So
yeah,
good.
Former. I want to say he was the captain of the Tri-City Americans in the WHL, and then longtime American leaguer, New York Islanders, Boston Bruins, now Pittsburgh Penguins.
All right.
Really deep cut, but last year when
I was doing rankings for every team in the league. Wotherspoon was on Boston. And I was just like surveying people I know. I ended up getting in a conversation with an NHL coach about how great Wotherspoon is as a number 7. So that's how deep cut that project went, that covering the whole league, I ended up talking to a coach about Boston's 7th defenseman.
That's hilarious. People are talking about how they know who Parker Wotherspoon is, how they went to high school with them, played hockey with them. That's hilarious. Okay. How did we go this long on a game day? The game starts in less than an hour. Jacob's got to do all this stuff right before. Okay.
Luckily, anyway, I'm not producing rink wide. Otherwise I would have booted you guys out by now.
Yep. I don't know how we went so long, but we'll close it out there. For my co-host, Harmon Dial, and our technical producer, Jacob Lazar, my name is Dave Pedrelli. Thanks so much to the episode of Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation is live Monday through Friday, every weekday at 2 p.m. over on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, and interact in the YouTube live chat every day with us, folks.